Hello everybody and welcome back to the Jake's RC Stuff channel and to another episode of Jake's RC Chit Chat, the podcast that I started doing a couple of weeks ago, where we talk about RC stuff and general RC chit chat, as well as the odd bit of YouTube and even smaller bit of personal news if there is any for me that I feel like sharing for this, if it's important or something. But I know I said that I wasn't going to do this in the pilot episode, but this is the second one that I'm recording. So the first one hasn't even gone out yet. I'm recording this on the 18th of July. And we'll be honest with you, I don't know how well the first one went. So we are going through this as a hope of it wasn't awful. And this is going to be the first episode that's actually going to talk about stuff and not just be talking about the podcasts. And I will apologise in advance for the and stuff. It is something that hopefully I will work on reducing as we go along. If I had someone else to talk to and sort of bounce off of, I think the would go away, but the is me trying to think of what to say next. Right, so I mean, even just to, I have like a checklist of topics that I want to speak about in today's episode. I don't know how long it's going to be. You'll find out by looking in the bottom left, I think. So a few things just to mention. YouTube related rise is, as you may have noticed on the first episode, in the video I refer to it as the Jake's RC Stuff podcast because I didn't really have a name for it. In editing, I refer to it as JakesRCChitChat, and then the video is actually called RC Chit Chat. That is because evolution of a name. It's just as I decided that chat was a bit boring, so we'll make chit chat just sort of spruces it up and makes it a bit more lively. It doesn't also help that the is me reading my list and working out what to do. The YouTube channel has just passed 200 subs and is now on 204, so I'm clapping. So that's nice, and when I've actually, because of when people have been talking about some of the monetization dickery that's been going on about, I decided to have a look at the monetization tab, because my channel isn't a monetized channel, because it doesn't meet the criteria. I had a look at the criteria, and the criteria is 1,000 subscribers and 4,000, I think it's watch time, so it might be like 4,000 hours watched in the last X amount of time. So just bear with me a minute, I'm gonna, because you might be hearing Teams, I'm just gonna cancel Teams. Yep. So I looked, and out of 1,000, I've got like 204 now, and I was about 1,000 hours, so about a quarter of what I needed on both of them. Good news. You might be thinking, why are you that bothered about monetization? Is this going to be just an awful money-grabbing channel by the end? No. Two reasons. One, money pays for things, so I can actually buy more models and stuff, which would be nice, without having to, like, beg for it. Although I do have a Patreon and a PayPal, which I always forget to paste into descriptions, but they are there. Possibly even in this one, if I remember. Yeah. What was I talking about? I'm actually quite tired, so I apologise for that in advance. This is possibly not going to be brilliant. Yeah, so and the other thing with monetization as well, of course, is that gets you into YouTube's good books, and as long as you don't fuck it up and lose monetization, then algorithms will help your channel grow. A lot of what I'm doing is based off of algorithms at the minute, because I don't have that much of a subscribe base. Only like 6% of you who watch my videos are subscribed, so if you've somehow managed to stumble across this, please subscribe. I certainly don't expect this to do as well as my normal videos do, because it is just me talking for God knows how long and replying to the occasional text message. Give me a second, it's a bit of an important one. Yep, sorry. Right, so, yeah, that was just like a little channel update. This hasn't gone very well so far, I feel. But I'm gonna soldier on, and hopefully you can soldier on with me, because now I'm gonna actually talk about some RC related stuff, and it's mostly about, of course, the first topic I have on my list is, as you may have seen on the channel, because we skipped a week, to put this video in, good God, the MG90 Tower Pros are doing inverted commas here because they're not Tower Pros, but the Tower Pros, the TP toilet paper is mounted to what they very much used to were. The toilet paper MG90s, I expected them to be worse than the ones because people did kind of pre-warn me, but I didn't expect them to be as bad as none of them work. And again, feel free to check out the video I uploaded on this. But yeah, literally none work. Out of, I can't remember how many I actually tested. So hang on. Sorry. Oh God, I should have done this in the day when I wasn't so tired. Also, what time is it? Oh, we've got plenty of time to record this in. That's fine. Apologies for the rambles. I will try and do this when I am a little bit more awake next time. So yeah, the MG90s don't work. They also had, so they're now sold as not Tower Pros but just MG90s. They also had, I discussed it in the video, there was some other brand that was like Aspiring Star or Aspiring Look or something. Let me have a look. Banggood MG90S. Lofty ambitions. Yes, lofty ambitions that you might get one that works. So yes, that was just awful. Awful. Wait, are they charging... Oh, 6 pieces, that's fine. I was about to say, are they charging 14 quid for regular ones? So, in that video, I did buy some of the Race Star MG90s, which is what people have recommended. And what's interesting about them is if I look at them now, they do actually have the metal gear on top. The silver gear that, if you watch that video, you'll see is what I sort of differentiated means they're good ones. Annoyingly, as I had the MG91s, which are digital ones, I don't particularly want to put in a FPV model. I want to put it in more of a 3D model. And I had 3 of the old style MG90s, of which I gave 2 to my dad to put in one of his that I'd put the cheapo crappy servos in. But he says he can't get to the receiver to put new ones in, so he plugged the model in, waggle, and it seems fine. And it's going to be that probably test flies it anyway. I'll just sit there on the ground waggling it for 5 minutes and make sure they work. If they fail, then good. It's annoying because it's a kit-built model. It's not like a foam model you can just re-glue back together. It's a kit wood model. The kit wasn't very expensive, but it's obviously a lot harder to put together what's a sheet of wood and some sticks. So, I don't want it to go in for no reason. So yeah, I've got some of the Race Stars coming. That's stopped the AXN because... Okay, I technically have 3 if you're still going to swap them over, but I need 4. So I could maybe do the wings and the elevator, but I decided to just leave it. So that's why the Flex Jet came up and got finished. And I've also had a look at the Vortini again. I'm not sure exactly where they are in the schedule, whether they'll come out yet or not, but have a look. And you can always watch what I've done so far on those 2 models, because they're both models that needed finishing. The Vortini is possibly on its way if I haven't fucked up gluing the wings on, and the Flex Jet is now finished, and I just need to edit the episode on it. But yeah, so the MG90 saga was just a nightmare. It's a waste of 25-30 quid. I'll try the Race Stars. Another thing with the Race Stars is you can get them in like a much more of them. I'll be completely honest with you. I don't know if I'm going to have... Like, I'm looking at you can get 50 for £101 or 100 for 186. And, there's a bit of me that's tempted to get a 50 or a 100. But, I mean, if I do... So, what? 1373. So, 6 of them are 1373, although I think I paid more than that. Divided by 6 is £2.28p each. If I do the 50s, 101.85. If I could type properly, 101.85 divided by 50 Okay, she saved about 25p each if you buy the 50, or if you get the 100s, that's 186.74. That's £1.86. So again, if I'm flush one month, I may order 50. This is all if this 6 that I've ordered work fine. I might order the 50. I mean, because as we proved, I had like 25 in that bag, so 50 isn't a ridiculous amount. But yeah, we'll see how we get on with that. I'm just really pissed off with that. And the problem is, this is the issue when you get stuff in stock like this that can go wrong. Like getting things like heat shrink, Velcro, cable ties as stock, screws, things like that are fine. But things that can actually break can be a problem. Like for example, I've got 2 Cobra motors sat in a box downstairs. One for the Funjet, one for a Funjet, one for a mini drag. They might completely not work, but it's been like a year since I bought them, so I have no comeback on them, really. It's the same with these race stars. Sorry, with the Tower Pros, or the Tower Pro in inverted commas. I could go to Banggood probably and say, look, watch this video, none of these servos work, can I have a refund? But we don't have the prices on them, unless they just go off of my last orders. Whether it comes to some sort of arrangement of store credit to cover them. But again, it's been so long, I've just not bothered. And I've got them all in a bag, in the bag that they came out of, just all loose. And I'll probably just use them for the servo leads and chuck away the actual servo bit. Again, I don't know why they popped. I have a suspicion maybe that if the grease that they're using is really crap and is liquid based, well, like maybe been watered down or something, or it's got water in there and that's leaked into the bottom section. Maybe that's what shorted them out. You wiggle them, it moves a bit, or it starts getting parts maybe hot or something like that, just to get them, and then just go pop and stop working. Because not only would you hear it go pop, and you could smell, if you watch the video, get halfway through, I decided to actually smell what you could smell, like electricity burnt, burnt electronics. But sometimes they would pop, and hear like pop, 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 almost like there was something got hot, and there was like bubbles blowing and popping on top of something because it was getting hot. So there was obviously some sort of lube, or the grease in the circuit board area where I don't really think it should be. Again, you'd have thought maybe the grease could be non-conductive. I presume that's a thing that exists. Has to be, I would imagine. But they haven't put it in. Maybe because the the ones that don't are, or the non-conductive stuff is so much more expensive. But yeah, definitely do not buy your Tower MG90s from Banggood. I'm going to try the race stars because I've heard that they are okay. We'll see how we get on. If they are good, then as I say, I might order 50 or 100 because I do have ways of selling them as well, which could be an option. But other than that, it's a bit but we'll see how we get on. It all depends on cash flow. It's a little tighter at the moment as I'm trying to pay off cards and things and live within my means. Although, I suppose in the current situation that is steadily coming to the end, at least in the UK, I should be thankful that I still have a job. And by the sounds of it, it's a job that, because I desperately need more people to do it, I'm not going to lose, as far as I know, touch all the wood in the world. It's not a brilliant job, but it pays for things, and, I still live with my parents, so it's not going to take the roof off of my head or anything like that. I don't have any kids to worry about feeding and sending to school and things, but there's still obviously that worry, especially if you have debts on credit cards and things, that you can still pay them, which I have the means to have an emergency of doing different things, but still. We'll leave that for now, and we're going to move on to a slightly different topic. Yes. What I want to talk about now is, and they kind of alluded this maybe with the mention of paying off credit cards and PayPal credit and things like that. As I say, my funds are a bit more strained at the moment. I'm trying to get debts down quickly because I kind of need a new car. That's the reason why. So I'm kind of restricting myself on cash and on space in the hangar and in the shed and things like that. So I'm thinking a bit more of just, instead of, oh, that's nice, I'm buying it, that I have to come up with a purpose for it. I will still accept a, that's really nice, I want one, but not just, oh, it looks alright, I'll have one. You know, it's got to be like, oh yes, I want one of those. So I made a little list because I'm trying to work out different things. So what I have on here is a plane list, which is the stuff that I have on the shelf ready to be built. Planes I want to order, which is, there's 5 on there. Extra projects, so they're not planes, but they're FPV related projects that I'll go into. I also have ones that are in the workshop that are being actively worked on and need finishing or something happening to them. So, first one that I have on the shelf in the other room is a mini Drac. So, mini Dracs should go without much introduction. If you do need introduction, feel free to have a look at Matthew Ogborn or Rag the Nuts off for that. He was the person who made me get it. It was also a I think it was the March, possibly, when we were going to leave the EU first. The reason why is it's an expensive plane for what it is, and because I didn't see things going very well, and I'm right, I don't want a really expensive plane to then become 20% more expensive when we have to pay VAT on it. So it was cheaper getting it, you know, taking tax and FedEx's or whoever's silly £10 cut for doing fuck all or whatever it is. It worked out being cheaper from a place in Europe. I can't remember where it was. So I decided, well, yep, I'm going to buy it as a treat. A little bit short of money. Not going to probably build it for a while, but I want to buy it. We've still, well, we've left, but not. Still, you know, we're still under the same VAT stuff. So technically I bought 2 planes on this and we still haven't left yet. But there we are. That's on the shelf. It's going to be built at some point. And in terms of the what's its use thing, this is one of the examples of that's just real nice and I want it. So that's there. And it is going to be built. There's some of these that I've considered selling or getting rid of, but that will come as things happen. You know, in the last 2 planes that I've built for FPV, the long range Sky Hunter, again, just wanted something small, wanted to rig up a Sky Hunter to do more than just rip around at a ridiculous speed. And the Dart 250, similar thing. I had the original Dart that I crammed a flight controller in, the wing board for iNav. Don't really like iNav. There'll be a little bit on that a little bit later, and that's kind of a nightmare, and just it's not a great kit. It's certainly not as good as the Dart 250G. I don't know what I'm going to do with that plane. I'm certainly going to take the iNav stuff out of it for now. I'm not sure if I'm just going to glue it back together because it got a little bit damaged, and put a ridiculous motor on it and just fly it around while it lives, and then when it dies, throw it away. Or if I'm literally just going to throw it away. Just to create a little bit of space. Because it's a small plane, it's like, do you really need to make that little bit of space? You know, you've got all the stuff in it. You're probably going to damage the servos taking them out, because they're them weak-ass 5-gram servos that are made for Sky Hunters. Whereas you could just glue the top back together, where all the stuff flew out of it when it hit the floor, and just rip it around like an idiot until it ends up in pieces, and then you can throw it away without having to break all the stuff out of it. So that's the original Dart. The Dart 250, again, I haven't flown it yet. I haven't flown in like a year. It's ridiculous. That I got that because I liked the idea of the co-pilot, and I've now heard reviews of that is good, that it is a very good system, so I'm happy about that. It all came as one package. Apparently the camera that I now have 3 of, the piggyback one, apparently isn't very good. And when I've used it, I've literally burnt my hands trying to change the mode because it runs so hot, especially at higher power outages or power outputs. Not power outages. That's not it. So fingers crossed it's alright, otherwise I suddenly have to like try and find or buy or do whatever other cameras. I could probably do it in the Sky Hunter, the 250G. I may end up having to buy just another combined camera. I have one that I did buy for the little glider, so we could possibly use that. But anyway, so that's those 3 planes. Back onto the actual list I have in front of me. So we have the Mini Drac I've spoken about. I have 2 tricopters in a box. They were going very, very cheap on Hobby King. And this was also kind of like a... Mini quad stuff's alright. The biggest quad stuff has got a bit boring. The ones that I really like that sort of sat in the middle as I first started with tricopters. And the original CC board. Copter control board. And they were great. The way that they flew was nice because you actually weren't relying on torque, you were actually moving the tail around. So I ended up buying 2 of them. I'm probably going to rig one up as just something to flirt about with like an idiot, with like a naze or something in it, which I know are older, but I have some still. And the other one I may try rigging up for iNav. I always like the NASAs, but they don't do tricopters. They do Y4, it's like a tricopter with a second motor on the back, basically to get rid of the servo. But again, that's not really the point of me getting it. So I might try iNav as a multi-rotor and see how I get on with that in the second one. But again, I bought 2 of them because it was cheap, and I was having to order them from China, I think. To be honest with you, I think the main reason why is I bought one and wanted me spare parts. So again, I need to decide what I'm going to do with it. But yeah, we'll have to see. I'm just double checking. Yep. So yeah, it was bought as 1 to rig up and 1 as spares. Again, I need to decide what kit I'm going to put into it. I'm going to set it up to be fast. It's a bit big and heavy to be a fast one. Or if it's going to be more like a photography style quad, like a Phantom or an F450 or an F550. We'll have to look at it as and when I decide to do it. It's quite low on the priority list because I have nothing for it. And they're quite expensive, you know, motor speed controllers. Flight controllers, which I don't really have, you know. I need everything for that, whereas a lot of this stuff, I already have the parts, or it's parts I could take from other things. Next thing I have on the shelf is another little glider. So I bought 2 at the time. My original idea was to make one that was sort of slow and floaty for FPV, which is the one that I'm building now. And then the other one was to modify it to be a hotliner and just rip the pants off it until it fell to bits. I'll be honest with you, I'm so fed up of the one that I'm currently building, that probably won't happen. So I need to decide what to do with the little glider. Maybe if I do get the first one up and running and somebody says, oh, I'd like to try that, I'll go, you can have mine for a £5, because it costs like £8 from Lidl. I'll be like, here, you can have this for a £5, I just don't want it, go away. I actually bought 3 at the time and gave 1 to my second cousin. I don't exactly sure what relation they are, but it's my cousin's kids. And he enjoyed that, so maybe if that, I'll keep it until his gets broken, and then I'll go, waha! But, yeah. Other one on that shelf, of course, is one that we've seen before again. It's another one of the last 2 AXNs. Has that video gone out yet? Let's have a look. It has... When did it go out? 17th? It came out yesterday. Has a like, no comments, 10 views. Meh. A little bit meh on that one. I don't... It says like I obsess over the numbers. I don't. I just like watching it go up. As it has been since like... Oh March, that might be because of certain things going on in the world and lots of people being stuck in and looking for RC stuff to watch. But we'll see how we go. There's been a little dip lately. Fingers crossed it's not a permanent one. Right, let me go back to my list of things. Yeah, the AXN, in terms of what I want to do with that one, the idea was that it would just be a spare. And when the AXNs were just gone completely, it was going to be a spare. So I eventually knackered the first one up. I could leave it a few months and then build the other one. Now that they're back, what I will probably do with that one, and it'll be a case of leaving it until I'm maybe struggling for stuff to do, is like take the wingtips off, put that ridiculous EDF I had on my original one after I crashed it a few times, and just rip it round like an idiot, which is always fun. Speaking of ripping it around like an idiot, I'm going to do these the opposite way around because we can do a segue. I have another I think it's called a Nano Sky Hunter, but it's basically the micro or whatever it is. It's like the long range one, slightly different colour scheme on it because it's a slightly different company. Bought in the UK thinking it was an EPP one, like the racing Sky Hunter that's on Banggood now, or the one that Ready Made RC sell. And it wasn't, which is a bit of a pain. I think what will happen with that one is it will be built similar to my first one, where it was just a spank around like an idiot type of model, and just put like a even hotter motor on the back of it. You know, the hottest mini quad motor I can find. You know, 6S. Really go for it. Basically, the thing is then, you know, that's what I want to do with it. Have a specific. That's what I want to do with it. So the tricopter one is a little bit all over the place. I don't know what I want to do. It depends on what motors I can get. Little glider, I'm not sure if I even want it anymore. The AXN, just as a model, like the reason to have that, to go back to the original sort of where this section started, is I just want a model that's a bit ridiculous. So, you know, a trainer with the wings cut down and an EDF stuck on the back of it that's overpowered for it. Again, just a daft fun model to razz and try and fly it like a Flammy EF Extra, which is on its wingtip a foot off the ground in figure of eights and then rolling going the other way and just flying low and as fast as possible and then breaking it, probably. With being an AXN and not really meant for it. I never crashed my original EF Extra through pilot error. It broke because the ball link where it screws into the elevator horn stripped out and I had no down elevator and it was just too low and just clipped a bush and wasn't seriously broken, but that one's going to be eventually modified into an FPV machine, and I can have my original one without the FPV stuff on, and then my FPV one with the FPV stuff on and a long range receiver in it. Not full long range, but just so that I'd have to worry about 2.4 and it going slightly below a hill or anything and losing signal when doing 100 odd mile an hour. So yeah, the Micro Sky Hunter again, just because I love the original one so much. It is a little bit concerning that I also have the mini AR wing for a similar thing that needs the thrust of the motor sorting out. And, you know, because that one's a bit more bouncy and stuff, but I don't know, the Sky Hunter's just a fun model that's super cheap, but at the same time, so's the mini AR wing. So, you know, it's just a bit. It might be one of these things where it's going to be left on the shelf until one of the very last things, and maybe by the time it's time to come down, the other one's been crashed a few times, the long range one, I decide. Or I decide that I now get on with iNav, and I want an iNav one. We can go for that as well. You know, it all sort of varies slightly, because the problem is with the Copilot Lite, because I'd like them to release a proper Copilot from Zoe HD that has an on-screen display on it. The long range one doesn't have an on-screen display, so I can't go for miles and miles and try and fly back. I have to hit return to launch if I don't know where I am. As opposed to if I look at the ground and don't know where I am on an FY41, I can use the arrows and distance away and angle from home and things like that to fly home on the instruments as opposed to return to launch. The other one I have on here is a mini Skywalker, which I bought simply just because of the nostalgia of having Skywalkers in the past. The idea was to try and fit iNav in there, but again, not a massive fan of iNav. Maybe if I get over my iNav hate, then it would work, because I would love to put a co-pilot in it. That was my current plan, but the problem is, the co-pilot, you can't have it at a opposite angle or back to front or on its side. You have to have it the right way up, and the mini Skywalker doesn't have a wide enough bay for it to fit in, so either it'd have to be sort of stuck out the side slightly and look a bit weird, or it's not going to happen. Again, as I'll get onto, I do have a slight possible plan of how to get get into iNav, and then I can stick an iNav on its side in it, fine, an iNav board that's super thin, and then go from there and have like what I used to have in the olden days of a proper Skywalker, but in mini form, which would be, again, quite nice, and that's why I want to do it. Another one that I have on the shelf, and it was bought around the time that the Tomahawk and the Sidewinder were coming out, is the F1 racing wing. I may have done the unboxing. Yeah, the Sonic Model F1 back in January 2018. So it's been sat on that shelf for 2.5 years. I'll be honest with you, it doesn't feel like it's been 2.5 years. The reason why I got that is it was going to be like an FPV wing off on EF Extra parts, so it'll use the same batteries as my EF Extra. Super tough foam. I don't know if Matthew Ogborn still has his or not. I think he had one at one point. But I was still excited to put that together as another FPV fast thing. But again, I've got the mini AR wing. This is some of the issues I was talking about. Mini AR wing. That Sky Hunter could possibly be a fast ripping around thing. Yes, the Z80. The F1 wing is slightly bigger, but yeah, it's a little bit worrisome. And the next one I bought again because it was very, very cheap on Hobby King, and it was going to be a light long range machine. It's a Z84. I'll be honest with you, I'm not the biggest fans of flying wings for long range, because if any servo fails or any of that linkage setup fails, it's going in. You can pretty much lose an aileron, a rudder, an elevator on any plane, and you can at least try and bring it home. Now you might think, if I lose an elevator, what's happening? It depends how naturally the plane is trimmed. I mean, if you have to fly it with loads of up trim and then suddenly the elevator disconnects and it's now level, sort of in the breeze, then yeah, it's going to go down. If you've got like zero trims and zero mechanical trim and it just flies nicely because it's, not been smashed to pieces, it's well made, it's CFG's right, everything like that, then, especially if it's a pusher model, because they usually climb a little bit on power, you can do like what they've done in 747s and things like that before. You use the elevator, you use the throttle as elevator, and even if you don't manage to bring it back, if you lose a servo on a flying wing, it's rolling and spinning and it's going in. You could sort of level it up and leave it alone. But I could go, for example, right, I know what that road is, or I know where that road starts. Let me just try and put it next to that road. And obviously I hope a car doesn't see it go down. It's had to go and pick it up and nick it, because I've experienced that before. But I'm going to add that actually as a topic for another day. But you can try and work out where you are and put it somewhere semi-safe. With a flying wing, if you lose any of the servos, other than if possibly have a rudder on it, but again, not really on FPV wings or on any wings at all, it's going down, and it's a bit more of a pain in the arse. I just need a quick break to refill my drink, and I'll be back very shortly. Don't go anywhere, and yeah, I'll be right back. Right, we're back. Come on, chair. And we're already at like 35 minutes and already had most of my drink, so I'm in a bad spot, really. So I may finish this sort of weird rant that I'm on at the moment, and then Sorry, I had a text message that confused me there. So yeah, I'm probably going to finish this weird sort of spot that I'm on now, and we'll actually cut that one here. So basically, let's split this podcast into two. Financially, no. This will more or less be the podcast I want to do anyway. I'll just cut out one topic. That's fine. Right, back to what we're doing. So, we're talking about the Z84. I don't really know what I want to do with that, because it's not really my thing. I might have to go and watch some of Matthew Ogborn. I mentioned him a lot. He should pay me. It's like a sponsorship. Sponsored by Matthew Ogborn. But I'm going to have to watch some of his videos on the Z84 to get excited about it again. If not, it's like brand new in its box. I could still sell it for like 20 or 25 quid to raise a little bit of cash. And also get rid of a relatively large-ish box off the side. What I have next is the Sky Surfer, which is probably going to be the next FPV plane I put together after the AXN. For a couple of reasons. I want to do a couple of testings on two different systems, well, three sort of. So the idea is to put in both the Easy OSD that I have. They used to be the Dogs Gonads back in the day. And they were being sold off super cheap at some Australian place. They were $50 Australian, but it worked out by the time you'd like put a little code in or whatever, it was less than 20 English pounds. Well, UK pounds, we'll give it to everybody. So it was a no-brainer. I bought two or three. They were the on-screen display to go to. The main reason why people moved away is because they then wanted something that could actually have return to launch. Just before return to launch, and you just had, people put on-screen displays on models that were going distant so they could read the arrow and come home without autonomous back then. And then we started getting the original FY21 and the vectors and things after that, and that's why people moved away from those. But yeah, so we're going to run that and a ZoHD Copilot Mini, or whatever they're called, Copilot Basic. I want them to make a proper one with an on-screen display. That's all I want. That's the only thing that will make that flight controller better. I haven't flown it yet, but that's just so far. Everyone says that it's great to fly with, and that's the only thing that I'm like, so far, like, why did you put an on-screen display in it? So I'm going to run those two as like a package and see how that gets on. The other thing, and it's the main thing that I'm interested in seeing, is there are video transmitters that are not 2.4 or 5.8 that you can only run in America, let's say, and I am yet to run those with, and obviously I'd only run it in America. I would fly over there when we're allowed back in. I've never run that with the R9 stuff that's at 868 megahertz or whatever it is. So, the 1200 possibly stuff and the 868 I've never run together. I've run the 433 and the 1.2 plenty of times in America. It's like when American car YouTubers say they're in Mexico, or English ones say that they're in Germany to get around the rules. I haven't tested that yet, and I want to run that setup in America in an FPV Funjet, which I'll get to in a moment, and the mini drag if possible. And I want to test it in a plane that's relatively cheap and not going to be a pain if it gets broken. That covers Funjet for not getting broken and mini drag for the fact it was expensive, before I go and install all that equipment for it to not work and possibly crash the plane as soon as I launch it because there's some sort of weird interference. So that's going to be the test. Once that's been tested and I'm happy with that, I may end up taking the Copilot out and literally just having it as the olden days when people had Easy Stars with the immersion on, and that's all they ran. I might just do that again as a bit of a nostalgia thing. And also, always like my Bixler, but the AXN is going to kind of be doing what that job was. You can see some of my escapades on the Bixler that got stuck in a tree for a couple of days in a storm. AXN is going to be dealing with that for now, so that the Sky Server can sort of be slightly more long range and slightly less racing through trees. But yeah, so mentioning the Funjets, I have a Funjet that I bought from America back in June 2016. It was super cheap there for what it was. They were super expensive in the UK. They're ridiculous money in the UK, and they were like that in dollars when dollars was slightly sensible. And it would fit in my suitcase because I'd only really used half my suitcase. So it went in there and it was fine. I brought that and a load of mini marshmallow Nestle hot chocolates back. Slightly weird, but there we are. And I brought that back, and that is going to be an FPV fun jet. I had a friend of mine who built an FPV fun jet, and there are some things that I would change after he's built it. After he's had a go at one, there is stuff that I would certainly change. So I would change that, and just try building it and see where we go from there. It's another one of those things where, unlike if I liked iNav, because it's a little bit less bulky and stuff to put in than the FY41, which I want to put in it. So, but compared to him, I'm probably going to be using a smaller transmitter. I'm also going to be using a smaller video transmitter, smaller actual receiver, because he was using an 8-channel Easy UHF out on the wing, just stuck on top of the wing, whereas I can get, an R9 Mini, or even more than likely it'd be one of the R9 Slims with the 2 antennas buried out on the wing somewhere. And even if it is just stuck on top of the wing, that's a lot smaller than the Easy UHF 8-channel stuff. So that'll be that one. And then I also have another fun jet I picked up super cheap because they were on sale because they were about to bring out the 2s, and I was worried that, I know I like the Funjet Ultra. I don't know if the Funjet Ultra 2 will be worse, so let's get one in for speed. And that's also going to be part of a very interesting project involving a quad that will drop it, and it will drop both Funjets, both the FPV one and the speed one. I have a quad that I'm going to convert to drop it. It's not a new thing. I know that Umiguli Bird, I've forgotten his fucking name. He was on the Spot 50 stuff. Rupert, the man with the fastest FPV record. His jet fun jet that he built, I don't think it's quite a fun jet, but it's a similar thing to a fun jet for FPV. It has a jet engine on the back of it. He drops that from a quad. Worries me that his quad is much bigger than mine. Mine's not. It's a Tarot. I think it might be a Tarot 880. I'm going to try that. I may have to upgrade all the motors and speed controllers, but that's probably the frame I'm going to use. And to be fair, Rupert's quad has answered me a few questions on what I'm going to do. Let me try and go through these other ones. So these ones are planes that I do not own yet, but I want to order. And again, this is going off the principles that originally started this conversation of they have to have a specific job and not just, ooh, that looks nice, unless it's very special. Something like a mini drag. The first one on here is an actual proper Skywalker. I do have one that I'm going to restore and just fly it as is, as just a nice thing to remember the olden days of FPV. And it is also someone who recently passed away's second proper FPV model that he gave me when I was struggling to, because I was a lot younger then, didn't have a job, was probably still in school, and he gave it me, and I promptly mid-aired him with his new one. That's fun, and it's never flown since then. It needs the elevator push rod putting on, and then it's more or less done, but I want to get rid of the FY21 out of it and put a 41 in it, and do a little bit of restoration. It's been smashed many times, so it's never going to be a show model. But it's something that I want to get up and running and flying again. It's just a nice sort of tribute to him and again of the olden stuff. But I want to get a brand new one, like the carbon boom and everything, because I was looking for a model that I could use as a permanent testbed model. So the Sky Surfer is going to do a little bit of it, but in the future, a permanent testbed model that will eventually test the HD FPV stuff and things like that. And what I like about the Skywalker is the fact that I can get, if you look under where the wings, and again, nostalgia again. Seems there was a time when people never thought that proper FPV flyers would ever not have a Skywalker. It was one of those type of things. The Skywalker that I'm talking about that I need to restore, it was the second ever version of it. So the first one was EPS foam and was crap. They just changed the foam to EPO, and that's what that is. So it still has. You had to put loads of carbon rod in the wings to make them not floppy, and they're still pretty floppy. And things like that. It's just it's a museum piece, really, even though it's been ruined basically. So this new one, again, a bit of nostalgia, and also it's going to, if you've ever seen one, there's sort of space under the wings, and some people will put all their flight controller stuff in there. I've never done that, but that's what I'm going to do, and then I can have the receiver out on the wing, and the video transmitter can be down on the tail. And the idea is then the big space inside of a Skywalker that everyone was so into, and it could fit multiple different, you know, Coke cans and things inside when it came out. That was the way of showing space, was how many Coke cans you could fit in it. And it was bought from Bev RC, which have sadly gone away. You know, nostalgia, going down nostalgia lane, or nostalgia street, or whatever the fuck. So I want to get one of those because I was looking at a model that would be just a really nice test bed. And it came down to that and a full-size Talon, not a mini Talon because it's not quite big enough on the front to run, say, 2 cameras side by side. I'm talking like you could run a GoPro and a regular camera and things like that. Whereas you can with a Skywalker, you can have one up on the top. They're designed to have a normal camera up on the top, and on the canopy to have like a GoPro or something. So I could run the HD camera on the canopy while having a regular camera up on top, so that we can test the HD camera, that it being my live main camera, and then maybe swap over or do whatever, or get rid of the Raspberry Pi camera and put a GoPro on the front and wire that into it and things like that. Basically just a testbed model that could also just have, because it's got nothing in the middle, be loaded up with 1 billion batteries and just fly for ages. You know, it's something that we could really look into, and the reason why I like it is it's not super brittle. You know, the newer ones unfortunately do have more plastic parts, but there's stuff that could be replaced with ply or 3D printed or whatever if needed. But also, just compared to the Talon as well, it doesn't have the big spinning propeller that's going to rip someone's arm off because it's up above. If you've never seen a Skywalker, imagine a really big Bixler, and that's kind of what it is. You know, that's what it was based off of. So, but very different as well. But that's the idea of that one. I also have a sort of my most secret project. The mini Drac was kept secret for ages, but I just kind of ended up having to say it because it explained a few different things that were going on. Another thing, just to quickly jump back a few models, the FPV Funjet would also have the same Cobra motor as what's in a mini Drac, because I know that it can sip power and also go quite quickly. The problem with my friend's was he also tried to make it, because it was a 4S 2200 he had in his, which I'm probably going to use the same if I can't squeeze it, like a 3000 in it, or possibly use lithium ion even. The problem with that is that he used a massive prop, so the torque roll was an issue, but again, the drop quad will help with that, as well as, like, it was just an accident waiting to happen on the arms, whereas, like, you know, put a little 8x6 to like a 10 or 11 inch prop, like he had a little 8x6 on the back that I know is good on the mini Drac, so there'll be plenty on a Funjet. Right, going back down to the mini Talon. Not like another mini Talon. People have done similar things before, but I want to integrate mine so it looks the most sensible and normal, which means it's going to be more complicated, but I want to give it a try and see how we go. It's sort of more the engineering side of it that I'm interested in, and the mini Talon is just a really good base, and possibly that'll be the first model, just the bare frame, that gets bought out of affiliate link money. So that'll be like a certain step for the channel. It'll be really interesting to see that money go into something that isn't just a plane that'll be flown, because of the idea I have in mind with that. There's going to be lots of videos I refine what it does down more. Next, Multiplex Easy Glider Pro, because they are still for sale. And if not, I get an Easy Glider 4. That's kind of the next evolution from the Easy Glider Pro, because that was my first FPV model. That's the reason why I want that. It was my first FPV model. I already have a BFG 2600 big glider thing, but I want another one because that's just what I started with. I flew it without FPV gear on and crashed it on like its second flight, doing figure of eights with a big glider, with a, not big, but a glider. I just want the same thing again, to crash it into a wall in the second flight. No, but I had so much fun with that. It eventually, so someone came up with an Easy Star that they slit in half. When I say slit in half, not top to bottom, but left to right, and put a 2-inch spacer in. So it was kind of a Skywalker-ish type of thing, because he had it laying around and wasn't really using it because he already had a Skywalker. And I basically tried doing the same thing to the Easy Glider, because he got crashed so many times that the front end was just ridiculous back to the front of the wings. So I basically made my own Skywalker out of it, which was fine, other than I had the battery out on the front of this sort of foam shelf, and it snapped, and then sort of hung under the wing, so it was massively tail heavy and crashed that way. The fact it didn't completely come off is astounding to me. And the second time, due to the wind, I misdid the C of G. I strengthened up this foam piece. It was like blue foam. It was really crap foam for what it was trying to do. I strengthened it up, but due to the wind, I ended up making it massively tail heavy, and it was just ridiculous and crashed again. And that was about the end of it. I still have the wings, because a popular thing to do was put Easy Glider longer wings on an Easy Star to up the weight, and also the Easy Glider wings already had ailerons put in, because Easy Stars back then didn't. Simpler times. So that's what that'd be for. Completely nostalgia. Another one like the Mini Drag that's just because I want it. The next one down could be another quite important model for my FPV career. And it's a drift, a ZOHD drift. I first saw it and went, nah, that's not for me. But the reason why is, again, because of Matthew Ogborn. I really want to get on with iNav if possible. And what he's done with the drift is he's released every, obviously got the drift itself. He's said every part that he's got on it, and he's got his dump file, which isn't an analysis of his poo. No, it's you go into iNav and you do like dump, blah 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 blah, dump in the CLI command line interface section of iNav, and it dumps all your settings into something that you can copy and paste into a text file, and then copy and paste back in and press enter, and it writes it. So it's like a way of transferring your configuration across. So what excites me about that is the fact that I know that that works. So I can take that, I can build that model, same as him, more or less, put the flight configuration in, might just have to change the way round aileron, elevator and throttle is, but other than that it should be fine. I'll probably change the on-screen display to make it look much more like an FI41 so it doesn't flash, because when I watch a video of him with an on-screen display and there's stuff flashing on the screen, like from takeoff, I only want stuff flashing on the screen if it's really important, like if I'm about to run out of battery or RSSI or something like that. I don't want it flashing all the time, it'll give me a headache. So that is the whole idea, because if that works, and I know it works, and I'm happy, I can then take that and put that into other things. I can take that system that works, put the exact same flight controller into something like a Skyhunter, into a Skywalker, the mini one, and go from there, because I know it works. As I said, I could never get mine working how I wanted it to. I know that drift flies well. It drives for a long time. It flies for a long time, not drives. Flies for a long time. And I know I can get all of those parts and all of those settings copied and pasted across. And that'll be my gateway in, hopefully. So that's what that's for. I haven't bought anything of it yet. I need to do an Excel spreadsheet of pricing up all the bits and see if I can afford it, because that may jump the list, because it'll help with other models that are on the shelf. But yeah. Couple more on here that are not quite as I really want as those other four are. But one is a Ranger 2400, so it's the biggest Ranger that they sell. I don't think Banggood sell it, so I have to get it somewhere elsewhere. But I was just so impressed at the long range of it. And basically that would be set up as the king of long range. That's the reason why I want that. So that might be, maybe that's the model that I decide to experiment with ArduPilot on an iNav compatible board, so I can always go back and see how we get from there. But it's one of those things where I just saw it and I went, yes, I like that. For the long range stuff, which I would always do within line of sight, obviously. But just the distance it covered, the amount of amps it used, I would put in my best equipment for long range. No sort of cheaping out. It would have maybe a GoPro on the front of it instead of a run cam, so it can be 4K 60. I really trust whichever long range system I feel I have the most trusted at the time, whether it be the R9 or the Easy UHF. Whether I want to go, it'll probably be 1.2. So I can only fly this in America, of course. It'll probably be 1.2 video just because it's better. Sorry, it is. It would probably have antenna tracking, because I have got the antenna tracking system here to deal with. You know, it will just be long range AF, and just that's what that's for, to go long range. That's what that model is designed for. Similar thing, I know I've said before I don't like the idea of long range wings, but an AR wing, I like the mini AR wing, even though I need to sort the thrust line out, and it will use mini Talon gear as well. I'm not going to get rid of my mini Talon. My mini Talon's brilliant, but you know, I could put that, you know, the same motor, speed controller stuff in there that I all know works, and just something that's a bit quicker as well. I have the S1100 as well, which ended up in pieces after one of the motors failed. And I like the idea of that, and I would hopefully either... I don't know if I could be asked to build another one, but if I can repair that and see what it's like, and then, you know, if that all fails, an AR wing, which has been changed to AT wing. No, AR wing. Thank you. Next, what I've got is just extra projects I have. So these are non-flying things, as in they don't fly, but they are flying related. So I've the HD FPV project, which again needs the Skywalker to really be dealt with properly on, so that I can test range without it being my main camera. Recording box, so that's already been tested. Like if you look at my R349, the 3-inch, like the best FPV fun you can have for £100 video, that was all recorded with that box. It did sort of jump a little bit, so I need to fix a software on that and also put like a proper lid over all the electronics now that that works. And that's just going to be the recording box, so that it can get plugged into other ground stations. So I've got I'm going to have a 5.8 gigs regular long range, my 1.2 regular long range for when I'm in America, and also a tracked antenna tracking system for both types. So I think I've ended up with a 1.2 regular long range system. That's done, really. I've inherited one that I'm meant to be trying to sell, but I might just buy, because I know it works. I know how well it works in America, so I can you know, really take it from there. The 5.8 gigs one will follow very much the same idea as the other one that I only use in America, but obviously 5.8 instead, so I can use it over here at 25 milliwatts. And then the tracker is going to be the same tracking system. It's going to be the same actual tracker itself. It's going to be the same tracking system in the plane. The only thing that's really going to change is I'm going to 3D print like a slide-on, slide-off receiver and high-gain antenna. So one for 1.2 for when I'm in America, and one for 5.8, and then that goes into the tracker, and then it will go out. And what I'm going to have as a backup is just a diversity system with a clover leaf of one of each type, and I just switch to whichever one it needs to be, and we take it from there. You know, in the minute I have my hat and I have my 5.8 video goggles, they're not ideal for longer range, of course, within line of sight, and the 1.2, of course, only in America. And then, you know, if we talk about the stuff that's in the workshop, I have Concorde, which has got a bit broken, unfortunately. I kind of need to skin that model to make it strong and then leave it for a bit while I try and work out what I'm going to do to finish that. You also have the little glider, which I'm really fed up of. This is the problem that I get into models that I get fed up of, and then they just stay there, and I go, because they're there, I can't start a new project, and then I just get annoyed and fed up and don't do anything. So yeah, the little glider that basically just needs the motor putting on, the speed controller, and the receiver putting in, and then it's done, and we'll just see if it works. I'm not even going to put an FPV camera on it until I've made sure it works. If it's utterly crap and I think it's not going to be fixable, it will be ripped apart and binned, because I'm that fed up of it. Or if it works brilliantly, I'm going to be beyond happy, because it's a model that I made myself, you know. I also have the AXN, which of course I can't do anything with it at the minute, and I'm also slightly worried about this camera, this V400 piggyback. Hopefully it works. If it doesn't, I've got to get a normal camera and try to attach it to that horrible canopy. And also see the Vortini, which I actually have got back out the box and glued the wings on, just so it's, if it becomes annoying, I'll finish it. With the little glider, I tried to make more annoying, so I'll finish it, and it hasn't been. As in, if it's annoying in the way, I'll go, oh, sod it, let me try and get some more done on this so it gets out of the way quicker. But the Vortini has now had the wings glued on. I now, at least with that, have the manual again, because the company started back up again. So I have the C of G, I have which way around the motor mount needs to go, and some other stuff we'll get into. I've done a video on that today, actually, as well. But yeah, that's all the sort of ongoing projects and what I'm looking into purchasing. I don't know how I'm going to title this at all. But what I can do is I can go in here and let's try and see my something that I do want to do in future episodes. This is have a Q&A at the end. That get rid of all of them. So I do want to do Q&As in this. So if you enjoyed this video, I know it's a little bit rambling all over the place, but please like, subscribe if you're new, and I will also leave, as I say, leave questions as comments, and I'll try and answer them in a future video. I apologise if this was rambly. I'll be honest with you, I kind of forced myself to do it because I needed to do it, and I was kind of too tired. I should have had like 2 or 3 coffees before I did this to try and, I know I talk quick, but keep the brain moving. I don't know what I'm saying like 4 words ahead of what I'm saying, which is why it's a bit all over the place. But anyway, I haven't really ticked off anything off of my list of things, because the only thing that I moved off the list is why I didn't jump on the Goblin, but this is too long, so we'll do that at a different time. I do have a Q&A question on here from another episode from Phil Hall. This was in the Long Range Sky Hunter episode 4. I decided to pick this out as an example of what we would do for Q&As. And the question was, just thinking, would it not be a good idea for you to put some heat shrink over the receiver after you set it up and bind it to just protect it? Yes, I do that on the vast majority of them. They usually end up with some sort of tape over them once they're in the wings or whatever. That, on that model in particular, I did end up doing that. I think it was just in a later episode, so you probably didn't see it when you posted that comment. But yeah, with receivers like that, they're open circuit board. Always try and protect them if possible, but it's not always the easiest to do. But anyway, that was a cue that I have A'd. Again, if you like this video, please like it, subscribe if you're new, leave comments with new Q&A stuff, and yes, I will see you all in the next one. So what, this was about 30 minutes. I think the other episode, the other half of this was like 30 minutes. No, don't rename it. Properties. 35 minutes. So an hour and 5 minutes. They will not all be this long. Some will be longer, some will be shorter, but this is what I've done for you today. Yeah, so fingers crossed you enjoyed this. It's a little bit all over the place. I'm not sure if this would be better shorter, as in like each topic gets its own episode. Like, I feel like this could easily be split into 2 and have the last one where I just talked about the planes I have and the planes that I want to get and why could make their own episode, you know, and then the little bit at the beginning could be a shorter episode. But never mind, we'll leave it all as a 1 hour 5 minute video. How long was the original pilot episode? Which is a pun that I suddenly realised as we were going through and decided to add. So the first podcast comes out in 3 days from now. That was 27 minutes long. So this is going to be an hour and 5. So over double. Fingers crossed this was somewhat enjoyable. Maybe it's something you can have on in the background if my voice isn't too annoying. And we'll see from there. But yes, thank you for watching. See you in the next one. Bye bye.